Manchester by the Sea is a new heartbreaking drama film directed and written by Kenneth Lonergan.
Well, I can't be his guardian.
Well, your brother provided for your nephew's upkeep. I think the idea was that you would relocate.
Relocate to where?
Well, if you
Here?
look, it was my impression that you'd spent a lot of time here.
I swear.
So the film is a little difficult to talk about without spoiling it, but I'll try to avoid any spoilers, and if I do, I'll make sure to warn you. The film is about a man played by Casey Affleck, and he is alerted that his brother is in the hospital, and you see he's like living a lonely life in Boston as like a janitor, and he comes home to Manchester by the Sea, and before you get there, his brother dies. And in his brother's will, he wants to take care of his son, played by Lucas Hedges. And like throughout here, you get like little bits of things that things aren't quite right. Like when he goes around the places, everyone will be saying, Is that Lee Chandler? Like, is that one of the Chandler brothers? Oh, I think that's Lee. Oh, man. And like at first I was like, oh, is he like a badass or something? Did he do something crazy back in when he was young? And then you get, the way it's formatted is there's these flashbacks along with the main storyline. And like each one get a little bit more of the backstory. And how it's done is really enthralling. Like I was probably crying throughout the entire movie, but it's because it's so powerful how it creates that story. Like it's not a simple format with how it keeps going from the present to the past, and like by clip, like you learn more, and like you know that something horrible happened in his past. Especially scenes with his ex-wife, played by Michelle Williams, and they're so powerful, but they kind of almost like break you as a viewer, and it's tough to. Some of the stuff is tough to watch. Like it's like you really feel for the characters, even though you wish that they would behave a little differently, but it feels real. Like it almost feels too real. Because Casey Affleck, his performance is very understated, but he plays a lot of men would behave like that. Like it's not over the top. He doesn't like freak out all the time, although he does this occasionally, but he doesn't like cry a lot. Like he's almost kind of like this empty, like inside, and that fits his character so well. I mean, like you say, like his acting is not like almost like he's not really acting for somebody, but I think that's how good his acting is, because it feels real. It feels like he's playing a broken man. So I would definitely recommend this film, but you might want to go into it with some tissues in your pocket. But to talk a little bit about why I liked it so much, but at the same time, I didn't love the ending, like the very ending, that I have to go into spoilers now. So I probably give this film a 9 out of 10. And but if you don't want to see the movie spoiled, you can stop the review now. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts about it, you can continue. So obviously, at a certain point, you find out why he is so broken, and that's because after a night of partying with his friends, everyone went to sleep, and it was a cold winter night, and he had to go get some more beers because he was out. So he put some logs in the fire because his wife's sinuses gets dry if they use the central heat. And he went, walking because he couldn't drive to the local quick market. and to get some beer and some other random stuff. And, you know, it's a 20-minute walk each way. And on his way back, his house is on fire. And his wife was pulled out, but his kids that were upstairs are all dead. And, you know, that he blames himself, but it was an accident. Like, he wants to be punished. Like I don't know, some scenes I heard that are most powerful scenes in the movie, but for me, one of the most powerful scenes is when he's in the police station and they're interviewing him about what happened, and, you know, he says, you know, that he must have left the screen off, and a log fell out and set the whole place on fire, and he's like, what now? Like, he wants to be arrested, he wants to be punished for what he did. And the policeman just go, it was an accident, it happens, you know, you're free to go, you know. And he can't believe that he can do something so horrible as to really kill his kids and have no punishment for it. So, like, he tries to pull one of the officer's guns out and blow his brains out, but he didn't release the safety. So, and that's like the last flashback we see. And, you know, I almost would have loved to see a couple more flashbacks, because with Michelle Williams' character, his wife, like some of the scenes where he says, I'm sorry for what I said, and stuff like that, I would have liked to see what she said to him and see more of the aftermath of that horrible event, which we never really saw except for, like, years, into like 10 years, more than 10 years into the future, in which is the present. You know, it's horrible that, like, his nephew, you know, he has a life here in the city and he wants to stay here, but you know, Casey Affleck's character, he can't be in this town. Like, everything around there reminds him of his family that he's lost. And I think even, like, the master bedroom in the house, like, overlooks the foundation for where his house used to be. And he tries to work through it. He tries to be a father figure for his nephew, but he can't do it. And I mean, some of the scenes that were most impressive were just where the characters don't say anything, or they say, like, one line, but, like, the emotions on their face say so much more. Like, just when he goes back to Boston to get his few things that he owns, and one of them, there's 3 picture frames, and you never see what's in the pictures, but the viewer knows that they're his kids. And when he puts them up in his room, like, the nephew walks by and looks at the photos and just, like, goes, oh, you know, he just kind of walks away then. And you know that you know, I kind of at that moment realizing that it's never going to work. And that's the end that makes it so it's not my favorite movie of the year. But I love the end. I mean, maybe it's too real, but in the end, he just gives up. And, you know, the idea is that he is broken and some things cannot be fixed. Like, he will never be okay. He will never, like, be normal. And, I mean, like, his wife remarried and has a new replacement kid. And he can never do that. And there's one scene with them is a very powerful scene with Michelle Williams and Casey Affleck, where, you know, she says, you know, I still love you. And, you know, he can't hear it. Like, especially when she's walking her new kid in a cradle. And, you know, that's really it for him. He can't do it. And I completely understand, and it's probably, you know, it's an interesting ending for the movie, where essentially the family friend, he adopts the nephew, and Casey Affleck goes back to Boston to live alone for the rest of his life. And I mean, I understand it, and it makes sense, but at the same time, it makes it so that I don't know if I'll ever want to see the movie again. You know, I don't know if I can deal with all the depression that the movie brings with no resolution and no even tiny, tiny, tiny happy ending. Like, I mean, like, I wish that he would have been able to step up and be a father to the nephew. Like, even though it's so tough for him, like, I wanted him to fight for it, but instead he just gave up. And I mean, I just, that's what makes it so that I don't know if I'll ever be able to watch the film again. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, because, I mean, you know, that is, I mean, some things that happen in people's life, they can never forget, they can never overcome. But it just makes it so that as a movie, it's not a fulfilling story. You know, it's like, it's kind of a downer. But I mean, it's still an excellent film, and I would recommend it. So if you want to check out my other film and book reviews, the playlist can be found here and here. And thanks for watching.